Maya stepped out of the car and immediately pressed the remote, locking the entire Bentley door system. Mercer moved closer and shouted, "Open the car! Hand over the key." Maya put the key in her pocket and replied coldly, "You don't have a search warrant." "I refuse." Mercer glared at her calm attitude, his voice turning harsh. "Are you deliberately obstructing an officer? What are you hiding in that car?" "You are exceeding your authority," Maya said firmly. His pride rising, Mercer pulled his duty baton from his belt, struck the first car window hard. "You just signed your own property damage report." "Shut your mouth," Mercer roared. He moved quickly, using the baton to smash every remaining window and the rear windshield, leaving the car frame exposed and covered in broken glass before leaning inside to search. Deputy Noah Bennett stood several yards behind him beside the second patrol vehicle. He had arrived only minutes earlier and had already checked the information Mercer had requested. "Mercer, the registration is clean," Noah said. "The Bentley is registered to her. Insurance matches too." Mercer continued searching the front seat. "I heard you. Then what are you looking for?" Mercer pulled open the glove compartment and removed the registration Maya had already provided. He looked at it again, even though the information had been confirmed electronically. "I'm investigating suspicious behavior." Noah glanced at Maya. She stood near the shoulder with her hands visible and made no attempt to approach the Bentley. "She refused a search," Noah said. "That isn't the same thing." Mercer turned toward him. "You want to run this stop?" "No." "Then let me do my job." Noah did not answer. He had worked with Mercer long enough to recognize the warning. Senior deputies in Carver County did not appreciate being corrected in front of civilians, especially by younger officers. Mercer turned back to the car. Inside the center console, he found a charging cable, sunglasses, receipts, and a small bottle of hand sanitizer. He checked beneath the front seats and opened the rear storage compartments. Nothing he found supported his suspicion. Maya watched him carefully. "Your registration was verified before you broke the first window," she said. Mercer straightened. "I told you to keep quiet. You can tell me not to interfere. You cannot order me not to speak." His face tightened. There was no fear in her voice, and that seemed to frustrate him more than open anger would have. He had expected her to argue emotionally after he damaged the Bentley. Instead, she continued speaking as if every decision he made could later be reviewed. Mercer stepped closer to her. "You seem very confident for somebody standing on the side of the road during a police investigation." "I'm confident about what I did and did not consent to." "You think knowing a few legal phrases makes you an expert? I think you should know them too." Noah looked away for a moment. He knew the exchange was getting worse, but Mercer was responsible for the stop and clearly had no intention of ending it. Mercer walked toward the rear of the Bentley. "Open the trunk." Maya stayed where she was. "No, I'm giving you a lawful order. You haven't established lawful authority to search the trunk." Mercer stared at her. "You keep refusing everything I ask. I provided my license, registration, and insurance. Your deputy confirmed all three," Noah said quietly. "She's right about that." Mercer turned on him again. "Bennett, I don't need commentary. I'm trying to keep this from becoming something bigger than it already is." Mercer looked toward the Bentley. Nearly every window was destroyed. Broken safety glass covered the seats and pavement. The vehicle paperwork had verified Maya's ownership, and the interior search had produced nothing illegal. For the first time, his position was becoming difficult to defend. Instead of stopping, he focused on the trunk. "What's back there?" he asked. "Personal property." "What kind?" "That is not relevant." Mercer gave a short nod. "There it is again." "What?" "That attitude. Every question gets a challenge." "No. Every question gets the answer it requires." Mercer stepped closer until only a few feet separated them. "If there's nothing illegal in the car, why are you working so hard to keep me out of it?" Maya did not move. "Because privacy does not become suspicious simply because an officer wants access." Noah watched Mercer's expression change again. The traffic stop was no longer being driven by any real concern about the Bentley. It had become a struggle over who would decide when the encounter ended. Mercer returned to the driver's side and leaned through the empty window frame. He reached deeper into the cabin, searching near the dashboard and beneath the steering column. Maya spoke behind him. Document everything you touch. Mercer stopped and looked over his shoulder. You threatening me? No. I'm telling you to preserve the record. I know how evidence works. Then you know why that matters. Mercer turned back toward the interior. Noah moved closer to the Bentley. He was looking at the windshield when he noticed a small device mounted beside the rearview mirror. A compact dash camera. A green indicator light showed that it was active. Noah studied it for a second, then looked at Mercer. Mercer. Mercer ignored him. Noah raised his voice slightly. Mercer. What? Noah pointed through the windshield. The camera. Mercer followed his hand. The dash camera remained fixed in place, its indicator still active. Mercer's attention shifted immediately from Maya to the device. How long has that been running? He asked. Maya looked at the camera. The entire time. Noah said nothing. Mercer lowered the baton in his hand and stared at the small recorder. Everything he had done was potentially on it. Maya, locking the Bentley, his demand for the key, her refusal to consent, Noah confirming the registration, the broken windows, the interior search, and the argument about the trunk. For the first time since Maya had refused to hand over the key, Mercer did not have an immediate response. Maya watched him study the camera. Then she said quietly, "Now you know why the record matters." Mercer stepped toward the windshield and examined the dash camera more closely. The green indicator remained active. Is that thing recording audio too? He asked. Yes, Maya said. Mercer looked at her. Since when? Before you approached the car. Noah's attention shifted from the camera to Mercer. He knew what the answer meant. The registration check, Maya's refusal to consent, the broken windows, and the search of the passenger compartment had all been recorded. Mercer reached through the broken driver's window and removed the camera from its mount. Maya immediately said, "If you're seizing that device, document the chain of custody." Mercer held the camera in one hand. "I know how evidence works. Then put it in an evidence bag and record when you took possession of it." His expression hardened again. "You don't give instructions here." "I'm not giving you instructions. I'm making sure there is a record." Noah looked at Mercer's empty hand and then at the camera. There was no evidence bag, no label, and no written notation. "Mercer," he said, "she has a point. We should log it before anybody handles the storage." Mercer turned toward him. "You can log it when we get back. That isn't the normal order." "I said I'll handle it." Noah stopped arguing, but he watched Mercer place the dash camera on the hood of his patrol vehicle. Mercer turned back to Maya. "Give me the key." "No. I'm done asking. You still haven't established lawful authority to search the trunk." Mercer walked toward her and stopped several feet away. "I found restricted recording equipment in a vehicle you're refusing to let me search. It's a dash camera. I decide what's relevant to my investigation." Maya kept her voice steady. "You don't create probable cause by damaging a vehicle and then deciding the owner's objections are suspicious. If you sympathize with Maya and believe no one should be punished for standing up for their legal rights, please like this video. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because someone near you may be following Maya's story too. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next powerful stories." Mercer stared at her. Noah spoke before the exchange could escalate further. "Mercer, we have verified ownership. There's no stolen vehicle hit. We haven't found contraband." Mercer pointed toward the Bentley. "She's been fighting every part of this stop. She answered your identification questions. She locked the car after you demanded a search." Mercer looked at Noah with clear irritation. "You want to keep debating this on the roadside?" "No. I want us to have a reason for what we're doing." Mercer turned away from him and faced Maya again. "Open the trunk." "I do not consent." He took another step toward her. "Put your hands behind your back." Maya did not move immediately. "Am I under arrest?" "You're being detained while I complete the investigation." "For what specific offense?" "Turn around." Maya studied him for a moment, then turned without resisting and placed her hands behind her back. Mercer applied the handcuffs without tightening them excessively. Noah watched closely. Maya looked over her shoulder. "Make sure your report includes that I complied." Mercer said nothing. He removed the Bentley remote from her coat pocket as part of the detention and walked toward the rear of the car. Noah followed. "Mercer, Think about this before you open that trunk. I am thinking about it. No. You're trying to justify everything that already happened. Mercer stopped and turned. You want to be part of this investigation or not? Noah looked at Maya, then back at Mercer. I'm already part of it. Mercer pressed the trunk release on the remote. The Bentley's trunk opened. For several seconds, neither officer moved. A black metal case sat in the center of the cargo area. It was secured with numbered tamper seals and official evidence tape. A white label was attached to the top. Restricted internal review material. Mercer leaned closer. Noah read the label twice. This isn't personal luggage, Mercer said. Maya remained beside the patrol car. I told you not to open the trunk. Mercer turned toward her. What is this? I'm not discussing it with you. You're transporting restricted internal review material in your private vehicle. And you don't think that requires an explanation? The case has a control number. Verify it. Mercer looked at the seal. You tell me where you got it. No. His expression changed again. This time there was less anger and more concentration. What agency does it belong to? Maya did not answer. Who gave it to you? Silence. Mercer looked toward Noah. Now, we have a problem. Noah moved closer to the case without touching it. The seal could be legitimate or stolen. We should verify the control number before we break anything. Mercer looked at Maya. You hear that? This is your chance to explain. Maya answered, verify the seal. Mercer reached toward it. Do not break that seal, Maya said. He stopped. Why? Because you don't know what you're looking at. Then tell me. No. Mercer pulled at the evidence tape. Maya's tone became firmer. Deputy, if you break that seal without authorization, you become responsible for everything inside that case. Mercer removed the remaining tape and opened the latches. Noah exhaled quietly. Inside were organized folders, sealed envelopes, audit summaries, personnel review documents, and an encrypted storage drive. Each item carried a control label. Mercer picked up the first folder. Internal complaints, he said. Noah looked at the documents. Put that back until we verify the case. Mercer ignored him and opened another file. His eyes moved down the page, then stopped. Noah noticed the change in his face. What is it? Mercer closed the folder. Nothing. But Maya had been watching him. Mercer opened another document and saw the same name again. Travis Mercer. Below it were references to an evidence discrepancy, a prior complaint, and an administrative review. For the first time since the stop began, Mercer's confidence disappeared completely. He looked at Maya. Where did you get these? The control number. I asked where you got them, and I told you how to find out. Mercer closed the case. His voice became more formal. You're being detained on suspicion of unlawful possession of restricted county material. Noah stared at him. You don't know that it's unlawful. I know her name is nowhere on these files. You haven't verified the custody record. Mercer turned sharply. That's what we'll do at the station. A car had stopped farther down the shoulder. An older woman stood beside it, holding up her phone. Mercer saw her. Ma'am, keep moving. This is an active police investigation. The woman lowered the phone slightly but did not leave. I'm off the roadway, officer. You need to move along. I'm not interfering. Mercer stared at her, then looked back at the Bentley. The damaged windows were visible from every angle. Maya stood, handcuffed without resisting. Noah remained beside the open trunk. The black case sat exposed between them. The woman raised her phone again. Mercer closed the trunk and picked up the dash camera from the patrol car hood. Maya watched him take possession of it. Be careful what you decide never happened. Mercer did not answer. Mercer walked back toward his patrol car with the dash camera in one hand. He opened the driver's door, placed the device on the center console, then looked toward Noah. Finish the tow request. Noah remained beside the Bentley. You're taking her in now. Restricted county files in the trunk. She won't explain where they came from. Yes, I'm taking her in. You still haven't verified the control number. We'll verify it at the station. Noah looked toward Maya, who stood beside the second patrol vehicle with her hands cuffed behind her back. What about the Bentley? Impound it. On what basis? Mercer gave him a hard look. Evidence. Noah did not argue further. He stepped away and called for a tow truck. Mercer got into his patrol car and shut the door. For several seconds, he sat without moving. The dash camera rested beside him. He picked it up and turned it over until he found the memory card slot. After removing the card, he inserted it into the reader connected to his patrol computer. A list of video files appeared. Mercer selected the most recent one. The recording began before the argument beside the Bentley. It showed Maya stepping out, locking the doors, and placing the key in her pocket. His own voice came through clearly. "Open the car. Hand over the key." Maya's answer followed. "You don't have a search warrant." "I refuse." Mercer watched himself step closer. Then Noah's voice appeared in the recording. "The registration is clean." Mercer paused the video. He looked through the windshield toward Noah, who was still speaking with dispatch. Then he resumed playback. The footage showed the first broken window, the second, the remaining windows. Maya standing away from the car with her hands visible. No aggressive movement. No attempt to interfere. No threat. The camera had recorded Mercer leaning through the broken window and searching the passenger compartment after the vehicle registration had already been confirmed. He skipped forward. The trunk opening appeared next. Then, the black case. Maya warning him not to break the seal. Noah telling him to verify the control number first. Mercer stopped the video again. His breathing had slowed, but his face was tense. If the recording remained intact, his report would have to explain every decision visible on the screen. He opened the file menu and selected delete. A confirmation message appeared. He accepted it. Then he deleted the remaining files from the card. After that, he formatted the storage. The computer asked for confirmation. He selected yes. When the process finished, the directory showed no files. Mercer removed the card, waited several seconds, then inserted it again. Still empty. He formatted it a second time. No files remained. Mercer leaned back in the seat and looked out at the Bentley. From where he sat, he could see broken glass on the seats and pavement. The older woman was still nearby with her phone. Noah was now speaking with the tow driver who had just arrived. Mercer placed the memory card back into the camera and turned the unit off. He opened the patrol car door and stepped outside. Noah looked toward him. "What were you doing?" "Checking the camera." "Anything on it?" Mercer walked past him. "Corrupted." Noah watched him for a moment. "It was recording when you took it. Recording doesn't mean the file's saved." Noah glanced at the device in Mercer's hand. "You already checked the storage?" Mercer stopped. "You have a problem with that?" "I'm asking." And I answered. Mercer placed the camera inside a clear evidence bag but did not seal it. "Let's go." Maya was placed in the rear of Noah's patrol vehicle for transport. Mercer took custody of the black case and secured it in his own unit. Before Noah closed the rear door, Maya looked at him. "Who has the camera?" "Mercer." "Was it logged?" Noah hesitated. "Not yet." Maya nodded once. "Remember that." Noah closed the door. The drive to the Carver County Sheriff's Office took less than half an hour. By the time they arrived, daylight had begun to fade. The sheriff's headquarters was a low brick county building near the courthouse square. Sunday evening staffing was light. Only a few patrol deputies, dispatchers, and administrative employees were inside. A local weather report played on a television mounted near the booking area. Someone had left a paper cup of coffee beside a stack of forms. A deputy at a desk was finishing a reheated chicken sandwich while typing an incident report. When Maya entered in handcuffs, several people looked up. No one recognized her. The booking officer was a woman in her late 50s with short gray hair and reading glasses hanging from a cord around her neck. "Name?" "Maya Williams." "Date of birth?" Maya answered. "Address?" She provided it. The officer typed the information into the system. "Occupation?" Maya paused briefly. "County administration." The booking officer looked up. "What kind of county administration?" "Transition work." Mercer stood behind Maya. She was found with restricted internal review material. The booking officer glanced at him, then back at Maya. "Any weapons?" "No." "Medication we need to know about?" "No." The woman nodded and continued the intake. Noah carried the dash camera into evidence processing. A property deputy looked at the bag. "What's wrong with it?" Mercer answered before Noah could. "Media corrupted in the field." The property deputy typed the description. "Any recoverable files?" "None." Noah looked at Mercer. The answer came too quickly. He had seen the green recording indicator on the road. He had heard Mercer ask how long it had been running. Now the camera had supposedly arrived with nothing usable. Noah said. The unit was active when it was seized. Mercer turned toward him. And? I'm just making sure that goes in the intake. The property deputy looked between them. Mercer said, put down that it appeared active. Storage was unreadable. Noah did not respond, but he memorized the wording. A few minutes later, the black metal case was placed on an evidence table. The property deputy examined the broken seal. Who opened this? I did, Mercer said. You verify the control number first? Mercer's expression tightened. We had probable cause. That's not what I asked. Before Mercer could answer, the side door opened. Captain Raymond Dugan entered wearing dark slacks and an open-collar white shirt. He carried a convenience store coffee and looked irritated at having been called in on a Sunday night. What happened? Mercer gestured toward the case. Traffic stop turned into something bigger. Dugan set the coffee down and approached the table. He read the label. Restricted internal review material. Then he opened one of the folders Mercer had removed from the case. His eyes moved down the page. His expression changed. Who opened this? I told you. I did. Dugan looked at Mercer. Who else saw what was inside? Mercer glanced toward Noah. Bennett. Dugan followed his eyes. Noah stood near the evidence workstation. Dugan closed the folder. Then, he looked through the window toward the interview room where Maya sat alone. She was not pacing. She was not demanding a lawyer. She was not asking to leave. She simply sat at the table, with her hands folded in front of her. Dugan watched her for several seconds. Who is she? Mercer replied. She won't say much. Dugan looked back at the file in his hand. Find out who she is before anybody outside this building does. Dugan entered the interview room carrying a legal pad and a paper cup of coffee. He closed the door behind him, set both on the table, and took the chair across from Maya. Miss Williams, he said. I'm Captain Raymond Dugan. Maya gave a small nod. I understand you were stopped this evening with restricted county material in your vehicle. You understand what Deputy Mercer told you. Dugan studied her before opening the legal pad. Let's keep this simple. Where did you get the case? The control number is printed on the seal. I saw the control number. I'm asking where you got it. And I'm telling you how to verify it. Dugan leaned back slightly. You've been very careful about what you say. I usually am. Are you an attorney? Maya did not answer. Investigator? She remained silent. State employee? You have my identification. Dugan looked down at the blank page in front of him. Your identification tells me your name and address. It doesn't explain why confidential internal review files were found in your trunk. They weren't found. Deputy Mercer opened a sealed case after I told him not to. He believed the material might be stolen. After breaking the seal, Dugan looked up. You seem more interested in procedure than in clearing yourself. I'm interested in both. Then, help me understand why you were carrying those records. Maya rested her hands on the table. Captain, the case had a numbered seal, an internal review label, and custody information. Your deputy could have verified all of it before opening anything. He was dealing with a driver who repeatedly refused instructions. I refused a search. There's a difference, depending on the circumstances. There is. That's why the circumstances matter. Dugan said nothing for several seconds. Maya's tone never changed, but he could tell she knew more than an ordinary driver usually knew about evidence handling. He changed direction. Do you know Deputy Mercer? No. Have you ever met him before today? No. Then why was his name in the files? Maya looked at him. You should ask the people who prepared them. That's not an answer. It's the correct answer. Dugan closed the legal pad. You're making this harder than it needs to be. No, Captain. Someone else already did that. He stood, collected his coffee, and left the room. Mercer was waiting outside. Well? He asked. Dugan motioned toward his office. Noah watched them go in and close the door. Inside, Dugan placed Mercer's preliminary report on the desk. Start from the beginning. Mercer remained standing. I saw the Bentley, ran the plate, got an administrative delay, and pulled her over. Did dispatch ever report the car stolen? No. Did registration eventually clear? Mercer hesitated. Yes. Dugan looked at him. Before or after you broke the windows? Mercer said nothing. Dugan already knew the answer. What exactly did she do that you're calling obstruction? She kept refusing orders. Which orders? Open the car. Give me the key. Let me search. Dugan rubbed his forehead. That is not how you write this. Mercer frowned. What do you mean? You don't write that she refused to let you search. You write that she repeatedly refused lawful instructions during an active investigation. That's what happened. Then use language you can defend. Mercer sat down. Dugan pulled the report closer. The database delay created an administrative concern. You continued the stop while verifying ownership. During that process, her behavior increased your suspicion. Mercer nodded slowly. Dugan continued. You observed indicators suggesting restricted material might be inside the vehicle. I didn't know about the case until I opened the trunk. Dugan looked at him. Do you want the report to explain why you destroyed several windows before you found anything? Mercer stopped talking. Dugan pointed at the page. You write the sequence cleanly. Administrative irregularity. Repeated refusal to comply. Officer concern. Vehicle entry. Restricted documents discovered. Possible unlawful possession. Evidence seized. Mercer looked toward the door. What about the camera? According to your intake, the media was unreadable. It was. Dugan held his gaze. Then, that is what the report says. Mercer nodded. At the evidence workstation, Noah was entering property information when he noticed the dash camera record again. No usable data. He stared at the line. He had seen the green indicator while they were still on the roadside. Mercer had removed the camera only after being told it was recording. Noah clicked into the equipment details. The unit had a serial number, intake time, assigned evidence number, and storage status field. He checked the technical response log. The device had registered normally when first connected. Noah sat back. That did not prove what had been on the card, but it proved the hardware had responded before the evidence entry was changed. A deputy carrying a paper plate walked past him. Long night. Noah minimized the window. Looks like it. You eat yet? No. There's half a chicken sandwich in the break room if nobody took it. Thanks. The deputy continued down the hall. Noah reopened the evidence screen. He entered a routine maintenance note stating that the media device had responded during initial intake before supervisory review. He included the serial number and timestamp, then saved the entry. He did not accuse anyone. He did not change the evidence classification. He simply made sure there was a record showing what the system had reported before someone changed the story again. Mercer and Dugan came out of the office several minutes later. Dugan carried the revised preliminary report. He placed it on the counter and signed the supervisory line. Noah watched the pen move across the paper. The report now described Maya as repeatedly non-compliant, treated the vehicle entry as necessary, and listed the camera media as unreadable at intake. Nothing in the document mentioned that registration had cleared before Mercer broke the first window. Nothing explained why the camera had appeared operational on the roadside. Nothing described Noah's objections. Dugan handed the report back to Mercer. Do not add anything without talking to me first. Mercer nodded. From the holding area, Maya could hear low voices and the movement of people outside, but not the details of what they were saying. She sat with her hands resting together and considered how easily she could end the situation. One name, one phone call, one explanation. If I tell them now, they stop being themselves. She stayed seated. Outside, Dugan's signature dried at the bottom of the report. By 8:30, most of the daytime staff had gone home. The sheriff's office settled into its Sunday night routine, with only dispatchers, patrol deputies, and a few administrative employees still moving through the building. Dugan remained in his office with Mercer's report open on the desk. He read it twice. The language was controlled now. The damaged Bentley was described as part of a vehicle entry decision during an active investigation. Maya's refusal to consent had become repeated non-compliance. The sealed case was listed as suspected restricted property. The dash camera was recorded as having unreadable media. On paper, the incident looked far more orderly than it had been on the road. That was not enough for Dugan. He left his office and walked into evidence processing. The black metal case sat on the main table. The original seal Mercer had broken remained beside it inside a temporary evidence bag. Several folders were arranged nearby. Dugan put on gloves. He examined the case inventory, then removed the damaged dash camera from its bag. The property deputy looked up from his computer. "You need me to stay?" "No. Finish your other intake." The deputy hesitated. "You want me to log anything you remove?" "I'm reviewing the incident personally." That answer was enough to make the deputy return to his desk. Dugan carried the camera to a smaller work table out of direct view. He removed the memory card and inspected it. The card itself appeared undamaged. His expression tightened. He placed it on the table and pressed down until it cracked. Then he separated the pieces and dropped them into a small disposal container. He opened the dash camera housing and loosened several internal components. He did not need to destroy the entire unit. He only needed it to look unreliable enough that a later technical failure would seem possible. After that, he turned to the black case. The original numbered seal was the first problem. If someone later compared the seal record with the condition of the case, Mercer's decision to open it would be obvious. Dugan removed the broken tamper strip from the evidence bag and dropped it into the shred bin. He then reviewed the folders Mercer had exposed. Most were preliminary summaries and personnel review documents. Dugan read quickly, stopping whenever his own name appeared. One file referenced supervisory overrides of evidence classifications. Another listed complaints closed without full review. A third contained a table of unexplained changes to incident reports. Dugan removed several pages. He fed them into the shredder. The machine ran for only a few seconds. No one came to investigate the sound. A dispatcher laughed at something in the hallway. A phone rang near the front desk. Someone opened the break room refrigerator. Dugan returned the remaining files to the case and placed them in roughly the same order. He replaced the original evidence bag with a new one and wrote a fresh notation describing the materials as received in compromised condition. At a nearby workstation, Noah noticed the evidence status screen update. He clicked on the case entry. One inventory line was gone. Another had been reclassified. The dash camera status had changed from received to damaged equipment. Noah looked toward the evidence room. Dugan was still inside. He checked the system history available to ordinary users. Some of the earlier information was no longer visible. Noah opened the maintenance field he had used before. He entered a second note, stating that the original evidence record had existed at 10:14 that evening, before supervisory review. He added the reference number and saved it. No accusation, no opinion, only a timestamp. Then he closed the screen. At nearly the same time, several miles away, Evelyn Brooks sat at her kitchen table with her phone in front of her. She had made decaf coffee but had barely touched it. The video from the roadside was still open. She watched the section where Mercer stood beside the Bentley with the baton in his hand. The broken windows were clearly visible. Maya stood away from the vehicle. Noah appeared several feet behind Mercer. Evelyn replayed the final minute. She had spent years working in emergency rooms, where memory became unreliable quickly after stressful events. She knew the value of writing things down while they were fresh. She took a yellow legal pad from a drawer. At the top, she wrote the date. Under it, she noted the approximate time, the road, the number of patrol vehicles, what she had personally seen, and what she had personally heard. She was careful not to add anything she had not witnessed. When she finished, she called the sheriff's office. A deputy answered. "Carver County Sheriff's Office. My name is Evelyn Brooks. I witnessed the traffic stop involving the black Bentley this evening." There was a pause. "Hold, please." A minute later, Dugan answered. "Captain Dugan." Evelyn sat straighter. "Captain, I recorded part of what happened. I thought someone might need a copy." Dugan's tone changed immediately. "Yes, ma'am. We absolutely do. Do you still have the original phone?" "Yes. I'd like you to bring it to the station tonight so we can preserve the evidence properly." Evelyn looked at the phone. "You need the whole phone?" "For chain of custody, that would be best. I can bring you a copy tomorrow morning. I'd prefer the original tonight." Something about the speed of his answer bothered her. "I don't think I'm comfortable handing over my phone tonight, Mrs. Brooks. If that recording is evidence in an active investigation." "I understand what evidence is, Captain. I spent 35 years documenting things people later argued about." Dugan stopped. Evelyn continued politely. "I'll make a copy and bring it in tomorrow." Before he could press further, she ended the call. Dugan remained at his desk with the receiver in his hand. He looked through the glass wall toward Mercer. "Come in." Mercer entered and shut the door. Dugan asked, "Did you delete the original dash camera footage?" Mercer hesitated. "There wasn't anything useful on it." "That isn't what I asked." Mercer looked away. "Yes. Who saw it before you deleted it?" "Me." Dugan waited. Mercer finally added, "Maybe Bennett." Dugan looked through the office window toward Noah, who was working quietly at the evidence computer. Then he turned back to Mercer. "From now on, nobody remembers the original version." Mercer understood exactly what he meant. The roadside stop was no longer the problem they were trying to explain. Now they were protecting the story they had created about it. A little after 10:30, Dugan returned to the interview room with a thin folder under his arm. He no longer carried the legal pad he had used earlier. This time he brought a printed document and placed it face down on the table before taking the chair across from Maya. "You've been here long enough," he said. Maya looked at him. "I agree." Dugan gave a brief nod. "Then maybe we can stop making this more complicated than it needs to be." "I haven't made it complicated. You were stopped with restricted internal review files in your vehicle. You refused to explain where they came from. My deputy made decisions based on what he had in front of him. Your deputy broke nearly every window in my car before he knew those files existed." Dugan paused. "I'm not here to argue about the roadside." "Then why are we here?" "To resolve it." He turned the document over and pushed it across the table. Maya did not touch it immediately. Dugan continued. "You sign that, we finish processing, return your personal property, and release you tonight." "What exactly am I signing?" "Read it." Maya pulled the document closer. The language was formal but simple enough. It stated that she acknowledged receiving the personal property listed at intake. It also said she was not aware of any irreplaceable property being lost while in departmental custody and had no immediate complaint regarding the handling of seized material. She read the second page. Another paragraph stated that she accepted the release of the Bentley subject to normal impound procedures and acknowledged that electronic evidence collected during the incident might have been unreadable or damaged before intake. Maya looked up. "You wrote this recently." Dugan leaned back. "Does that matter?" "It matters if you're asking me to sign a statement about evidence I haven't been allowed to inspect. We're not asking you to verify technical evidence. We're trying to get you out of here." "Then release me." "I'm offering to." "No. You're offering to release me if I sign something." Dugan folded his hands on the table. "Miss Williams, nobody benefits from turning this into a larger problem." Maya looked at the document again. "You seem very interested in what disappeared." "Nothing disappeared." "Then why do you need my signature saying nothing did?" Dugan's expression remained controlled, but his answer came more slowly. "It protects everyone from misunderstandings later." "Who is everyone?" "The department. You. The county. I didn't ask the county to protect me from a misunderstanding." Dugan looked toward the door, then back at her. "You want to know what I think happened?" Maya waited. "I think Mercer made a difficult decision during a stop that became unusual very quickly. Then he found a sealed case full of material that any reasonable deputy would question. I think you made the situation harder by refusing to explain yourself. Now everyone has spent hours dealing with something that could still end quietly. You left out the broken windows. They can be handled through insurance. You left out the search. That can be reviewed. You left out the camera." Dugan stopped. Maya watched him. "The camera was documented as unreadable," he said. "By whom?" "It was processed as evidence." "That wasn't my question." Dugan's voice became firmer. "You're not conducting the interview." "No. I'm deciding whether to put my name on your document." He pushed the paper slightly closer to her. "You could walk out of this building tonight." Maya looked at the signature line. "And if I don't sign?" "Then the investigation continues." "Into the case?" "Into everything." Maya rested both hands on the table. "The control number on that case can be verified. We're working on that. You've had several hours. Sunday night is not the best time to reach county offices. That sounds like a departmental problem, not evidence of a crime." Dugan's patience thinned. "You have an answer for everything." "No. I have questions about what you want me to sign." He studied her for a few seconds. "How do you know so much about these procedures?" Maya did not answer. Attorney? Silence. Investigator? She remained still. County employee with access to restricted records? Maya finally said, "You already asked me that, and you never answered. I told you to verify the case." Dugan looked at the unsigned form. "I can't help you if you refuse to help yourself." Maya pushed the paper back across the table. "I didn't ask you to help me." Dugan did not pick it up. "You're making a mistake. Then put that in your report too." He stood. For the first time, the calm professionalism he had maintained since entering the room showed a small break. "You think you understand what's happening here, Miss Williams. I understand that you want my signature more than you want an explanation for what your deputy did." Dugan took the document. "This offer may not be available later. Then I suggest you don't lose the paperwork." He stared at her, then walked out and closed the door. Maya remained seated. She could end the situation if she chose to. One explanation about the appointment waiting to take effect after midnight would change every conversation in the building. Mercer would stop defending himself casually. Dugan would call county counsel. Evidence rooms would become controlled spaces. Every officer would begin choosing words carefully. That was exactly why she had not done it. If she revealed her position now, she would learn how these men treated a sheriff. By remaining silent, she was learning how they treated someone they believed had no authority over them. The difference mattered. Several minutes later, voices carried from the hallway. Maya could not hear the entire conversation, but Dugan's voice was clear enough when he spoke near the doorway. "We need this closed before midnight." Another man answered too quietly for her to understand. Maya turned toward the wall clock. It was a few minutes after 11. She looked at the second hand moving around the face and then returned her attention to the empty chair across from her. Dugan believed midnight was the point by which the problem had to disappear. Maya knew it was the point when the people inside the building would finally discover who they had been trying to silence. Noah Bennett waited until Mercer left the evidence area before reopening the electronic record for the dash camera. The status still read that the device had arrived with no usable data. But Noah knew that description did not match what he had seen on the roadside. He checked the access history available to patrol personnel. The record had been opened several times since intake. One access belonged to Mercer. Another came from a supervisory account assigned to Captain Dugan. After that access, the camera classification had changed from active electronic evidence to damaged equipment. Noah looked toward Dugan's office. The door was closed. He opened the maintenance section and reviewed the note he had entered earlier. It still showed that the camera had responded electronically before supervisory review. He added the equipment serial number, the original intake reference, and the time the device first connected to the evidence workstation. He did not change any evidence. He did not copy restricted material or enter an accusation. He only preserved information that already existed. A voice behind him made him close the screen. "You planning to spend the whole night staring at that computer?" Mercer stood several feet away, holding a paper cup of coffee. "Finishing intake," Noah said. "Intake was finished an hour ago. There were some equipment fields missing." Mercer took a drink and watched him. "You worry too much about details. They matter when evidence changes hands." Mercer's expression hardened slightly. "You taking her side now?" "I'm doing paperwork. That woman has restricted county files in her trunk and refuses to explain how she got them. The seal still should have been verified." Mercer lowered the coffee. "We're past that." Noah met his eyes. "That doesn't mean what happened before stops mattering." Mercer stared at him for a moment. "You're still young, Bennett. Let me give you some advice. People who turn every decision into an argument don't last very long in this job." Noah leaned back in his chair. "Is that advice?" "It's experience." Mercer walked away. Noah waited until he disappeared down the corridor before opening the system again. A second record connected to the black case had been modified. One of the original inventory entries no longer appeared on the standard screen. Noah checked the audit information. The record had existed earlier that evening. He entered another maintenance notation stating that the original inventory record was present before supervisory access. Then he saved it and logged out. He knew Dugan might remove what ordinary users could see. He was beginning to understand that the system still retained information about when those changes occurred. That might matter later. Across town, Evelyn Brooks had not gone to bed. She sat at her kitchen table wearing her reading glasses, the yellow legal pad still beside her phone. She had already written down what she remembered from the traffic stop, but Captain Dugan's insistence that she surrender her original phone continued to bother her. She called her daughter. "Rachel, Mom, everything okay?" "I'm fine. I need you to tell me how to make another copy of a video." Rachel was silent for a second. "What video?" "The one I mentioned from the road. You still have it?" "Yes." "Did you send it to anybody?" "No." "Don't delete anything." "I wasn't planning to." Rachel walked her through saving another copy to the cloud account connected to her phone. Evelyn followed each step carefully. "Does that mean it's somewhere besides this phone now?" she asked. "Yes." "Good. Mom, what exactly did you record?" A deputy had already broken the windows of a woman's Bentley. She was standing away from the car. Another deputy looked uncomfortable. Then they opened the trunk. Rachel paused. "Did you give the police the video?" "Captain Dugan wanted my whole phone." "And you said no, right?" "I told him I'd bring a copy tomorrow." "Please don't go alone." Evelyn looked at the legal pad. "I won't." After the call ended, she reviewed her notes one more time. She added a final sentence, stating that she had spoken with Captain Raymond Dugan that evening and that he had requested possession of the original phone. She wrote the approximate time beside it. Then she closed the pad. Back at the sheriff's office, Noah went to the break room and found the half sandwich another deputy had mentioned earlier. He was not hungry, but he ate several bites while standing near the counter. The television on the wall showed the late local news with the sound turned low. A weather map covered most of the screen. Deputy Lisa Warren entered and poured herself coffee. "You still here?" "Apparently." She looked toward the hallway. "Dugan's in a mood. So is Mercer." "When isn't he?" Noah almost told her what he had seen. He stopped himself. He did not know who Dugan trusted or how quickly anything he said might return to Mercer. Instead, he asked, "You ever see evidence get reclassified the same night it comes in?" Lisa looked at him. "Depends." "On what?" "Why are you asking?" "No reason." She studied him for a moment, then picked up her coffee. "If you think there's a problem, don't talk about it in the break room." Noah looked at her. "Understood." She left. The warning was enough. Noah returned to the evidence workstation, checked that his entries were still present, then signed out completely. The clock above the booking desk showed 11:45. A dispatcher near the front entrance looked through the glass doors. "County car just pulled in." Noah turned. A dark sedan had stopped in front of the building. Two people stepped out. A man carried a leather document folder. The woman beside him held a second file against her chest. Neither wore a uniform. Mercer came out of the hallway. "Who's that?" The dispatcher checked the front monitor. "County attorney's office, I think." Dugan's office door opened immediately. He stepped into the corridor and looked toward the entrance. Noah glanced at the wall clock again. 15 minutes remained before midnight. Whatever Dugan had been trying to finish before then was about to meet two people who had arrived carrying paperwork of their own. The front doors opened, and the man from the county sedan stepped inside with the woman beside him. Both appeared to be in their 50s. The man wore a dark suit and carried a leather folder. The woman carried a thick county file with several official tabs visible along the edge. Dugan walked toward them before the dispatcher could leave her desk. "Evening. Captain Raymond Dugan." The man offered a brief handshake. "Michael Reeves, county attorney. This is Helen Porter from the Board of County Commissioners' office." Dugan looked at the folder in Reeves's hand. "What can I do for you?" "We need Maya Williams." Dugan's expression changed only slightly. "You're here about the restricted records?" Reeves did not answer the question. "Where is Miss Williams?" "She's being held while we investigate possible unlawful possession of internal county material." Porter looked at Reeves, then at Dugan. Reeves asked, "Held where?" "Interview holding." "Has she been formally charged?" "We're still working through the incident." "Then bring her out." Dugan's tone remained polite. "I'll need more than that. We have an active investigation." Reeves looked toward the clock above the booking desk. It was a few minutes before midnight. "We can wait." Dugan frowned. "For what?" Reeves did not explain. Mercer had come out of the hallway and was now standing several feet away. Noah remained near the evidence workstation. Porter placed her county file on the counter but kept one hand on it. Dugan looked between them. "If this is about the case in her vehicle, we have reason to believe it contains restricted internal review documents. She refused to explain how she obtained them. Reeves asked, "Did anyone verify the control number on the case?" Dugan paused. "We were in the process." "That sounds like a no." Mercer stepped forward. "The circumstances gave us reason to believe the material could be stolen." Reeves looked at him. "You are?" "Deputy Travis Mercer." Porter glanced at the file in front of her. Mercer noticed. "What?" "Nothing," she said. Reeves returned his attention to Dugan. "I want Miss Williams brought out." Dugan crossed his arms. "Again, you're asking me to interrupt an active investigation." Reeves looked at the clock. 1 minute remained before midnight. "Captain, I'm not asking you to interrupt anything yet." The room became unusually quiet. The dispatcher stopped typing. Noah looked toward the clock. Mercer followed his attention. Dugan appeared more irritated than concerned. Then the minute changed. Midnight. Porter opened the county file. Reeves waited several seconds longer before speaking. "Now bring her out." Dugan's patience ended. "On whose authority?" Porter removed a certified document and placed it on the counter. Reeves turned it toward him. "On hers." Dugan looked down. At the top of the document was the official county seal. Beneath it was the appointment language approved by the Board of County Commissioners. His eyes moved lower. Maya Williams, Sheriff of Carver County, effective at 12 midnight Monday. Dugan read the page again. Mercer stepped closer. "What is that?" Noah already understood. Reeves looked at the clock once more. It was 1 minute past midnight. "Captain," he said, "Maya Williams is now the Sheriff of Carver County. I suggest you open that holding room door." Mercer stared at the document. "She never told us." Nobody answered him. Dugan remained still for several seconds before turning toward the hallway. "Get her." A deputy moved quickly toward the holding area. Noah looked at Mercer. The anger that had driven Mercer for most of the evening was gone. He appeared to be trying to reconstruct every conversation he had had with Maya since the traffic stop began. A minute later, Maya entered the administrative area. She was no longer handcuffed. She did not smile. She did not look at Mercer first. Her attention went to the evidence processing area. The black case had been repackaged. The dash camera carried a damaged equipment tag. A new evidence bag had replaced the one she had seen earlier. Then she looked at Dugan. Reeves handed her a copy of the appointment document. "Sheriff Williams?" Maya accepted it. "Thank you." Mercer spoke before anyone else could. "If you'd told us who you were, none of this would have happened." Maya looked at him. She held his gaze for a moment but did not answer. There were more important things to do. She turned to Reeves. "I want every evidence system in this building frozen." Dugan stepped forward. "Sheriff, before you start issuing orders, there are details you need to understand." Maya looked at him. "I understand enough to know that nothing else gets changed tonight." She faced the dispatcher and the evidence staff. "From this moment forward, nobody deletes, moves, edits, destroys, or reclassifies any item connected to this incident." Dugan tried again. "There are routine processing procedures already underway. They stop. You're personally involved in the incident. You can't run the investigation." "I'm not going to." That answer caught him off guard. Maya turned to Reeves. "Contact outside investigators. I want independent preservation of the physical and electronic evidence. I will not conduct the criminal fact-finding in a matter where I was detained." Reeves nodded. "I'll make the calls." Maya looked toward Noah. "Who handled the dash camera after it came into this building?" Noah hesitated. Mercer answered first. "It arrived. Corrupted." Maya did not look at him. "I asked who handled it." Noah said. "Mercer had it on the roadside. It came through evidence intake here. Captain Dugan later accessed the record." Dugan's eyes moved toward Noah. Maya noticed but did not comment. "Preserve the access history too." "Yes, ma'am." Dugan lowered his voice. "Sheriff, we should discuss this privately." "We will. After preservation begins." Dugan said nothing further. Maya moved toward the evidence room with Reeves and Porter, leaving Mercer near the booking desk. Mercer looked at Dugan. Dugan did not look back. Several minutes later, Dugan entered his office alone and closed the door. For the first time that night, he allowed himself to show concern. Then he sat down and reviewed what had already been done. The memory card had been broken. The original seal was gone. Several pages had been shredded. The evidence packaging had been replaced. Mercer's report had already been rewritten. Dugan leaned back in his chair. The woman they had detained was now the sheriff. That changed the politics. It changed the command structure. It changed who could ask questions. But a title could not restore evidence that no longer existed. By the time his breathing settled, Dugan had convinced himself that one fact still protected him. Most of the truth, he believed, had already been destroyed. Within minutes of Maya's order, the sheriff's office began to operate differently. Michael Reeves contacted the State Investigative Bureau and requested an independent team to preserve the evidence connected to Maya's detention. Helen Porter remained near the administrative desk, documenting which county records were being secured and who still had access to them. Maya stood outside the evidence room but did not enter. Reeves noticed. "You can go in," he said quietly. "No, not until an outside investigator is present. This is your department now. That's exactly why I'm staying out." Reeves nodded. "Understood." Maya looked through the glass at the black metal case. The packaging had changed since Mercer removed it from the Bentley. The numbered seal was gone, and several evidence labels appeared newer than the others. "What was the original condition of that case when it arrived?" she asked. Noah answered from behind her. "Open." The seal had already been broken on the roadside. "Who repackaged it?" Noah hesitated. "I saw Captain Dugan in evidence processing later." Dugan had returned from his office and was standing several feet away. "I conducted a supervisory review," he said. Maya turned toward him. "Did that review include changing the packaging?" "The original packaging was compromised." "Who documented that?" "I did." "Before or after you changed it?" Dugan's expression remained controlled. "Sheriff, I understand how this looks, but evidence gets repackaged all the time when the original condition is unsuitable." Maya did not argue. "Then, the documentation should support you." Dugan said nothing. Mercer remained near the booking area. He had stopped trying to defend himself loudly. Now he watched every conversation, especially when anyone mentioned the dash camera. An outside investigator arrived shortly after 12:30. Special Agent Karen Blake from the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation entered with a digital evidence specialist and a second investigator assigned to physical evidence preservation. Blake introduced herself to Maya. "Sheriff Williams." "Agent Blake, I understand you're the complaining party and also assumed office tonight." "That's correct. I'll need your statement later, but I want to establish something first. Are you directing this investigation?" "No." "Good." Maya gestured toward Reeves. "County Council requested independent preservation. Anything involving my detention, vehicle, or seized property goes through your team." Blake nodded. "That keeps the lines clean." Dugan stepped forward. "I'd like it noted that the department has been cooperating." Blake looked at him. "We'll note whatever the records show." Her answer was neutral, but Dugan's face tightened slightly. The preservation team began with the evidence room access log. They secured the dash camera, the damaged Memin7 card, the black case, all related packaging, and the intake paperwork. Digital staff made copies of the evidence management system logs before any further work continued. Blake reviewed the first inventory sheet. Dash camera listed as corrupted on arrival. Mercer spoke immediately. "That's correct." Blake looked up. "You personally determined that?" "Yes." "When?" "On the roadside." Noah's eyes shifted toward him. Blake noticed. "Deputy Bennett?" Noah looked at her. "Did you see the camera operating?" "Yes, ma'am." Mercer turned toward him. Noah continued. "The indicator was active before Mercer removed it from the Bentley." Mercer interrupted. "That doesn't mean usable footage existed." Blake held up one hand. "I'll ask you separately." Mercer stopped talking. The digital specialist examined the intake record. "The equipment entry shows the device responded when it was first connected here," Dugan said. "Responding hardware does not prove readable media." "No," the specialist replied. "It doesn't." Maya remained silent. She had no need to argue. Each answer was now being documented by people outside Dugan's authority. Blake moved to the black case. "The original seal?" Dugan replied. "Compromised during the roadside search." "Where is it?" No one answered immediately. Blake looked at Mercer. "You broke it?" "Yes." "Was the seal retained?" "I assumed evidence processing handled that." Blake turned toward Dugan. Dugan said. I reviewed the packaging. The seal was damaged. That wasn't my question. Where is it now? Dugan's voice became firmer. I don't know. Blake wrote something down. The second investigator began comparing the surviving contents of the case against the preliminary inventory. There are gaps in the numbering. Dugan looked over. What kind of gaps? Several documents jump out of sequence. We have 14, 15, then 19. Another section skips 2 control pages. Mercer looked at Dugan. Dugan remained still. Maya asked Blake, "Do you need me here?" "Not for this part." "Then, I'll step away." That decision surprised Mercer. "You're not even going to look at what's missing?" Maya turned toward him. "No." He frowned. "Why not?" "Because if I become the person deciding what the evidence means, every conclusion can be challenged as personal." Mercer looked away. Reeves followed Maya into the hallway. "You expected something like this?" "I expected the case to be opened if someone was careless. I did not expect the windows, the camera, or an overnight rewrite." Reeves lowered his voice. "What do you think they removed?" "I don't know yet. You saw some of the files before Mercer closed the case. Enough to know his name was there. And Dugan?" Maya paused. "Not clearly enough for me to say. That distinction mattered. She would not turn suspicion into fact simply because Dugan had already given her reasons to distrust him." Back inside, Blake asked Dugan to explain why the evidence packaging had changed. He repeated that the original condition was unsuitable. Then she asked why the dash camera classification had changed after supervisory access. Dugan answered that damaged electronics were routinely reclassified. Blake looked toward the digital specialist. "Can you preserve the original status history?" "Yes." Dugan stepped closer. "Some of those entries are just administrative cleanup." Blake looked at him. "Then the audit trail will make that clear." A deputy entered carrying a cardboard tray from the all-night diner across the courthouse square. "Coffee order." Nobody had remembered ordering it. The deputy set the tray on the counter and quietly left. The smell of fresh coffee spread through the room, but no one reached for a cup. The digital specialist picked up the Bentley dash camera and examined the model number on the housing. He turned it over once, then looked at the broken memory card sealed beside it. "Who said the storage was destroyed?" Dugan answered. "The card is physically damaged." The specialist nodded. "I can see that." He studied the camera again. Then he looked toward Blake. "Why are we looking for the memory card?" The room went quiet. Mercer's attention fixed on him. Maya turned from the hallway. Blake asked, "What do you mean?" The specialist pointed to the camera. "This unit doesn't depend on the card for its primary record." The digital evidence specialist carried the Bentley camera to the technical workstation and connected it through an isolated forensic interface. Blake stood beside him, while Maya remained near the doorway. "What does it use?" Blake asked. The specialist checked the device information on his screen. "Local storage is secondary. This model can upload encrypted recordings automatically when it has a secure data connection." Mercer looked toward the damaged memory card. "You're saying it records somewhere else?" "I'm saying the card isn't necessarily the only copy." Dugan stepped closer. "Where would the other copy be?" The specialist continued reading the configuration information. This unit was enrolled in an external evidence preservation environment. Maya's expression changed slightly. Reeves noticed. "You know about that?" "I know why the vehicle was configured for secure documentation." Blake looked at her. "Because of the transition material?" "Yes." Maya kept her answer limited. "The sealed package was being moved under an integrity review protocol. I was told the vehicle system had been temporarily configured to preserve transportation records independently of local systems." Dugan frowned. "Independently how?" The specialist answered before Maya could. "Encrypted synchronization. Once the camera connects, completed segments are copied off-site. Local users can delete the card without affecting material that is already transferred." Mercer stared at the camera. "How often does it upload?" "That depends on the configuration. I'm checking now." He entered the device identification number and authentication information supplied through the transition records. A status window appeared. The specialist read it silently, then turned the monitor slightly toward Blake. "Last successful synchronization began before the traffic stop ended." Mercer's face tightened. Dugan asked, "Where is the server?" "Not in this building." That wasn't my question. It's part of a secure environment used for the transition integrity review. The storage is federally managed under the Outside Evidence Agreement. Dugan looked at Maya. You arranged federal storage for a county vehicle? I didn't design the system. Can you access it? Not directly. The specialist confirmed that. Sheriff Williams can't alter the original files from here. Neither can anyone in this department. Dugan's voice became more controlled. Can they be deleted remotely? Not by a local administrator. The answer ended the discussion. Blake instructed him to retrieve only a verified working copy while preserving the original remote record. The process took several minutes. Nobody spoke much during that time. Mercer remained near the back wall. Noah stood across the room, watching the progress screen. Dugan occasionally checked his phone but did not make any calls. The first recovered file appeared shortly after 1 in the morning. Blake looked at Maya. You don't need to watch this. I know. Maya remained long enough to confirm that the footage existed. The video began with the Bentley already stopped on the roadside. Maya stepped out. She locked the doors. Mercer approached and demanded the key. Her refusal followed clearly. You don't have a search warrant. I refuse. The next portion showed Mercer questioning her, followed by Noah arriving and confirming that the registration and insurance were valid. The specialist paused the recording. Blake looked toward Noah. That's your voice? Yes, ma'am. You had already confirmed ownership at that point? Yes. Mercer interrupted. There were still circumstances I was investigating. Blake looked at him. You'll have an opportunity to explain those circumstances in a separate interview. She resumed the footage. Mercer removed the baton. Maya remained several feet away. The first window was broken. Then the remaining windows. The rear windshield followed. The camera recorded Maya's hands, Mercer's movements, and Noah's repeated objections. No one watching the footage had to interpret whether Maya had physically interfered. She had not. The recording then showed Mercer entering the passenger compartment and searching the Bentley. Blake watched without comment. The footage continued until Mercer discovered the camera itself. His face appeared close to the lens for a moment before he removed the unit. The image changed angle as he carried it away, but the audio remained active for a short period. Maya's voice could still be heard telling him to document the chain of custody. Then Mercer answered, I know how evidence works. A few seconds later came another line. I'll handle the evidence. The specialist stopped the video when the recording segment ended. Mercer shifted his weight. That doesn't show what happened afterward. Blake looked at him. It shows enough for us to compare it with your report. Dugan spoke. This is Mercer's roadside contact. I wasn't there. Mercer turned toward him immediately. Dugan continued. I responded later, based on information provided to me. Mercer stared at him. You reviewed everything. I reviewed what was brought into the station. You helped write the report. Dugan's expression changed. Watch what you're saying. Mercer gave a short, disbelieving laugh. You told me exactly how to write it. Blake raised one hand. Both of you stop. You will be interviewed separately. Mercer looked at Dugan for several seconds before turning away. Maya saw what had just happened. The loyalty between them was beginning to fail. The specialist opened the synchronization log. There's more. Blake moved closer. What kind of more? Metadata. Upload times. Device status. Disconnect events. File completion records. The camera stopped transmitting only after it was removed from the vehicle. But the roadside segments had already completed synchronization. He pointed to the screen. The copy on the card was not the original record anymore. Mercer looked toward the broken memory card sealed on the evidence table. For hours he had believed destroying that card had removed the most dangerous evidence. It had only removed the copy he could reach. Maya stepped back from the workstation. Agent Blake, you have what you need from me for now? Yes. I'll stay available, but I don't want to participate in the review. Blake nodded. That's appropriate. Maya left the technical area with Reeves. Inside, the specialist shifted his attention from the recovered video to the sheriff's office evidence database. He compared the camera's remote timestamps with the local intake record. His expression became more serious. The camera was functioning before arrival, but somebody changed its evidence status after it entered this building. Dugan answered immediately. Routine reclassification. The specialist looked at the access history. Maybe. I'll need the original audit trail. Noah had been silent until then. He stepped forward. "I can show you where to look." Every person in the room turned toward him. Noah looked first at Blake, then briefly at Dugan. I preserved the original status before it started changing. Blake asked Noah to step into a small conference room away from Mercer and Dugan. The digital evidence specialist followed with a laptop, while another investigator closed the door. Noah remained standing until Blake pointed to a chair. "Sit down, Deputy Bennett." He sat and placed his hands on the table. Blake opened a fresh interview form. "Before we look at anything you preserved, I need you to tell me exactly what you did and why." Noah nodded. "When the dash camera came into evidence, the intake record said there was no usable data. I knew the camera had been active on the roadside." "How did you know?" "I saw the indicator light. I also heard Mercer ask how long it had been recording." "Did you personally view the footage?" "No." "Did Mercer?" "I saw him checking the camera in his patrol car. Later, he told me the files were corrupted." Blake wrote that down. "Did you believe him?" "No." "Why not?" "The timing. He knew the camera had recorded the stop, and the device responded normally when it was connected at intake." Noah looked down for a moment. "I should have said something immediately." Blake did not interrupt. "I didn't," he continued. "I was worried I was making assumptions. Mercer had seniority over me, and Captain Dugan was already involved. So I documented what the system showed instead." The specialist turned the laptop toward Noah. "Show me." Noah opened the maintenance section of the evidence management system. "This is the first note. The camera responded during initial intake before supervisory review. I entered the serial number, intake reference, and time." Blake asked, "Did you alter the evidence status?" "No." "Copy any restricted files?" "No." "Create any false entries?" "No, ma'am." The specialist checked the system history. "The note is time-stamped." Noah pointed to another field. "This one came later. An original inventory record connected to the black case disappeared from the normal screen, so I documented that it had existed before supervisory access." The specialist began comparing Noah's entries with the system-generated audit logs. Several minutes passed. Then he said, "The timestamps match." Blake moved closer. "What exactly matches?" "The camera was entered as active electronic evidence. Later, Mercer's account accessed the record. After that, a supervisory account assigned to Captain Dugan opened it. The status changed to damaged equipment." He opened another log. "The black case was also modified after Dugan accessed the system. One inventory line was removed, and another entry was reclassified." Blake looked at Noah. "You knew Dugan was making the changes?" "I knew his account was accessing the records. I didn't know exactly what he was doing inside the evidence room." "You saw him there?" "Yes." "Did you see him destroy anything?" "No." Blake nodded. "Good. Keep separating what you know from what you suspect." Noah looked relieved that she had said it. "I understand." Outside the conference room, Dugan waited with Mercer near the administrative desks. Mercer kept looking toward the closed door. "What did Bennett tell them?" Dugan answered without looking at him. "I don't know. You think he's turning on us?" Dugan finally faced him. "There is no us in an independent investigation." Mercer stared at him. "That's not what you said earlier. Keep your voice down. You told me how to write the report. I told you to document your actions clearly. That's not what happened." Dugan stepped closer. "You need to stop talking." Mercer's expression changed. For the first time, he understood that Dugan was preparing to separate himself from everything they had done together. Inside the conference room, the specialist recovered a deeper audit layer that ordinary users could not modify through the standard evidence screen. He pointed to a series of entries. "Here. Original camera status. Original case inventory. Subsequent administrative changes." The system retained each event even though the current screen no longer showed the earlier versions. Blake asked, "Can these logs identify the accounts used?" "Yes." He highlighted two names, Travis Mercer, Raymond Dugan. Blake sat back. "That gives us a timeline." Noah said quietly, "That's why I left the notes." Blake looked at him. "The notes helped us know where to look. The audit system is what establishes the changes." Noah nodded. He understood the distinction. A second investigator entered carrying the surviving contents of the black metal case. "We finished the preliminary inventory." Blake stood. What did you find? The investigator placed several folders on the table. The case is legitimate county property. It was prepared for the leadership transition. Noah looked at the label on the first folder. Carver County Sheriff Transition Integrity Review. Blake opened it. The introductory memorandum identified Maya Williams as the authorized recipient upon assumption of office. The sealed package had never been stolen. It had been assigned to her. The investigator continued. The purpose was to brief the incoming sheriff on unresolved internal control issues before she took command. Blake turned several pages. The concerns included missing evidence, altered incident reports, unexplained camera failures, closed complaints, and supervisory changes made without complete documentation. Then she found Mercer's name. Several entries involved him. One concerned an evidence discrepancy. Another referenced a prior complaint. A third involved a report modification requiring additional review. Blake turned another page. Dugan's name appeared as the approving supervisor. Then it appeared again. And again. Noah read silently over her shoulder. The surviving records did not prove every allegation, but they established that the concerns existed before that night. Blake closed the folder. Mercer had assumed Maya was carrying evidence that could incriminate her. Instead, he had opened an official package prepared for the woman who was about to become his sheriff. The digital specialist returned to the audit screen. We have the roadside video, the original evidence status, the administrative changes, and the transition records. Blake looked toward the conference room door. This isn't one bad stop anymore. Maya was standing in the hallway with Reeves when Blake stepped outside and told her what they had confirmed. Maya listened without interrupting. When Blake finished, Maya looked through the glass toward Dugan and Mercer. "No," she said quietly. "It isn't." Dugan asked to speak with Agent Blake before any further interviews began. Blake agreed, but she chose the conference room and brought another investigator with her. Dugan noticed immediately. "I thought this was a conversation." "It is," Blake said. "It's also part of an investigation." Dugan sat across from her. Mercer remained outside near the booking area, where he could see the conference room door but could not hear what was being said inside. Dugan folded his hands on the table. "I want the record to reflect that Deputy Mercer made the roadside decisions. I wasn't present." Blake opened her notebook. "That is already clear. I responded based on the information he gave me." "What information?" "That he had detained a woman carrying restricted internal review records under questionable circumstances." Blake nodded. "And after you arrived?" "I reviewed the incident." "Did that include the dash camera?" "I reviewed the evidence status." "Did you physically handle the camera?" Dugan paused. "Yes." "Did you handle the memory card?" "I may have." "Did you break it?" Dugan's expression tightened. "I don't recall damaging it." Blake did not react. "Did you remove pages from the transition package?" "No." "Did you change the evidence packaging?" "The original packaging was compromised." "Did you alter the electronic classification?" "I performed a supervisory correction." Blake looked down at her notes. "What was incorrect about the original classification?" Dugan hesitated again. "The equipment was damaged." "Who determined that?" "Mercer reported the media was unreadable." Blake looked at him. "So your correction relied on Mercer's statement?" "Yes." "And you did not independently verify the device?" "I'm not a digital technician." Blake closed the notebook. "That will be all for now." Dugan frowned. "That's it?" "For this interview." He stood slowly. "You understand what Mercer is going to do, don't you?" Blake remained seated. "What do you think he's going to do?" "He's going to blame everyone around him." "That sounds like something you should discuss with your attorney." Dugan left without responding. Mercer was waiting near the hallway. "What did you tell them?" Dugan kept walking. "Nothing that concerns you." Mercer followed him. "You said you were going to handle this." "Lower your voice." "You told me what to put in the report." Dugan stopped. Several deputies looked up. He turned toward Mercer. "I told you to write an accurate report." Mercer stared at him. "No, you didn't." Dugan's voice stayed controlled. "Think very carefully before you continue." Mercer stepped closer. "You told me to write that her refusals were non-compliance. You told me to make the vehicle entry sound necessary. You told me the camera was unreadable. I repeated what you told me." "That's not true." Noah stood near the evidence workstation and heard every word. So did two other deputies. Dugan noticed the attention gathering around them. This conversation is over. Mercer gave a short laugh. That's convenient. He walked away before Dugan could answer. Maya was in a separate office with Reeves when Blake entered a few minutes later. We're separating them now, Blake said. Maya looked up. Mercer and Dugan? Yes. Their accounts are already beginning to conflict. Reeves asked. Do you have enough to establish who changed the evidence? We have account access, timestamps, Noah's preservation notes, and the original system states. We still need interviews and forensic confirmation. Maya nodded. That's the right order. Blake studied her. You could make this easier politically if you issued a statement tonight. No. Reporters will be here by morning. I know. You'll be asked whether you think this was corruption. Maya looked toward the glass wall separating the office from the main corridor. I'll say there's an independent investigation. Blake nodded once. That's the answer I was hoping for. Maya stood. Where is Evelyn Brooks? On her way. She agreed to give a formal statement here, but only to the outside team. Good. A little after 3:30, Evelyn entered through the courthouse side entrance, wearing the same dark slacks and light blouse she had worn to dinner. A gray cardigan was buttoned over it. She carried her phone, a yellow legal pad, and her reading glasses in a small case. Reeves met her first. Mrs. Brooks. Yes. I'm Michael Reeves, county attorney. She shook his hand. I was told an outside investigator wanted to see me. Blake approached and introduced herself. Evelyn nodded politely. Before we start, I want to be clear about something. I don't know what happened before I stopped my car. I can only tell you what I saw after I got there. That's exactly what we want, Blake said. Evelyn relaxed slightly. Maya remained several feet away until Evelyn noticed her. Are you Miss Williams? Yes. Evelyn looked at her for a moment. I heard they're calling you Sheriff Williams now. They are. Evelyn gave a small, tired smile. Well, Sheriff Williams, I nearly kept driving. Maya looked at the phone and legal pad in her hands. But you didn't. No. That matters. Evelyn nodded and followed Blake into the interview room. Her video confirmed the condition of the Bentley after the windows had been broken. It showed Maya standing away from the vehicle with her hands visible. It showed Mercer beside the open trunk and Noah nearby. It also captured part of Mercer's effort to make Evelyn leave the roadside. More important were her handwritten notes. She had written them before she knew Maya's position, before she spoke with anyone from the county, and before the incident could become public. Blake reviewed the pages carefully. You wrote down that Captain Dugan asked for your original phone. Yes. What did he say? That bringing the whole phone in that night would be best for chain of custody. Why didn't you? Evelyn adjusted her glasses. Because he sounded more interested in having the phone than in hearing what I saw. Blake wrote that down. Outside the interview room, the investigation team continued reviewing the surviving transition package. One investigator brought Blake a file when Evelyn's interview ended. We found another complaint connected to Dugan's supervisory review. Blake opened it. Then another investigator handed her a second file. The pattern was similar. Disputed evidence handling, changed wording in reports, complaints closed after supervisory intervention. None of the older files proved misconduct by themselves. Together, they raised a new question. Dugan's involvement might not have started that night. Blake carried the files into the hallway where Maya and Reeves were waiting. This may go back further than Mercer. Maya looked at the folders. How far? We don't know yet. Maya did not ask to see them. Then find out. Across the building, Mercer sat alone in an interview room. Dugan was in another. For the first time since the roadside stop, they were no longer protecting the same version of events. By 4 a.m, the central question had changed again. It was no longer whether Dugan had protected Mercer that night. It was how many times he might have done the same thing before. Dugan requested another interview shortly after 4 a.m, but this time he asked that Maya be present. Agent Blake considered the request before agreeing. You understand Sheriff Williams is not conducting this investigation, she told him. I understand. I still want her to hear what I have to say. Maya entered the conference room with Michael Reeves and took a seat near the end of the table. Blake sat across from Dugan, while an investigator prepared the recording. Dugan looked tired now. His white shirt was wrinkled at the sleeves, and the coffee he had carried most of the night was gone. "I've worked in this department for more than 30 years, he began. "I've watched people come in here with no idea what it takes to keep an office like this functioning." Maya said nothing. Dugan continued, "Complaints come in every week. Some are legitimate. Some are misunderstandings. Some are from people who are angry because a deputy gave them a ticket or arrested someone in their family. If command staff treated every complaint like a criminal investigation, nobody would do police work." Blake asked, "Is that why records were altered tonight?" "I'm explaining how supervision works." "No," Maya said. "You're explaining how you justified it." Dugan looked at her. "You haven't been sheriff long enough to understand the difference. I was a citizen when your deputy broke the first window. I understood enough then." Dugan leaned forward. "You could have prevented all of this." Reeves looked toward him, but Maya answered before he could intervene. "How? You could have identified yourself. You could have shown Mercer the appointment documents. You could have called the county attorney before this became a disaster. You think my title would have changed his behavior?" "Of course it would have." The room went quiet. Dugan realized what he had admitted, but he did not take it back. Maya kept her voice even. "That is the problem. He thought he was dealing with an ordinary traffic stop. He was. You know what I mean." "Yes, Captain." "I do." Dugan sat back. Maya continued, "I had valid registration, valid insurance. I refused a search. Your deputy damaged my car before finding the sealed case. None of those facts change because a county commission appointed me. Sheriff, you deliberately withheld information. I exercised the same rights any other citizen could exercise. And then you waited while the situation got worse. I waited while your people made choices." Dugan shook his head. "You wanted to see what would happen. I wanted the stop to end lawfully. But once it didn't, you let it continue." Maya looked directly at him. "Justice isn't fair because powerful people demand it. Justice is fair only when power has to obey it too." Dugan was silent. Maya continued before he could answer. "If Mercer had treated me properly only after learning I was about to become his sheriff, that would not have proven the system worked. It would have proven status was the only thing protecting me." Dugan turned toward Blake. "This is exactly what I mean. She has already decided what happened." Blake replied, "My team is deciding what the evidence establishes, based partly on Bennett." "No," Blake said. "His statements are one part of the record." Dugan pointed toward the door. "Bennett waited all night to say anything. He stood there while Mercer searched the vehicle. Now he suddenly becomes the reliable witness because he wants to save his own career." Maya did not defend Noah. Blake opened a folder. "His credibility is not the only issue." She placed several printed audit pages on the table. These entries were created automatically by the evidence management system. Deputy Bennett did not create the access timestamps. Dugan looked down. Blake continued, "The dash camera entered the system as responsive electronic evidence. Mercer's account accessed it. Your supervisory account accessed it afterward. Its classification then changed to damaged equipment. I already explained that. There's more." She placed another page beside the first. "The black case inventory was altered after your account accessed it. An entry disappeared from the standard view. Other items were reclassified. Administrative corrections. The original records still exist in the audit layer." Dugan looked toward the papers without touching them. Blake added, "Deputy Bennett's notes helped us locate the changes. The system's own audit trail establishes when they happened." Dugan's expression tightened. "You're relying on software as if software never makes mistakes. That's why we compare it with other evidence." Blake opened another folder. Mercer's report was inside. Beside it was a transcript prepared from the recovered Bentley footage. She turned the report toward Dugan. "Deputy Mercer wrote that Miss Williams repeatedly refused lawful instructions during an unresolved ownership investigation." Blake pointed to the transcript. "The recording captures Deputy Bennett confirming ownership before Mercer broke the first window." Dugan said nothing. Mercer also wrote that vehicle entry became necessary as suspicion increased. She moved her finger to another line. "The video shows the windows being destroyed before the restricted case was discovered." Another page. "The report describes the dash camera as unreadable when seized. The remote system shows successful synchronization before Mercer removed it." Dugan looked toward Mercer through the conference room glass. Mercer was sitting alone in the adjacent interview room. For the first time that night, Mercer no longer looked angry. He looked exhausted. Blake continued, "We also have changes made inside this building after the roadside incident ended. That part does not involve split-second judgment." Dugan looked back at Maya. "You think this department can survive if every decision is treated like evidence against its own people?" Maya answered calmly, "A department that can only survive by hiding its decisions has already failed. I kept this place functioning. You kept it protected from consequences." Dugan's jaw tightened. "Sometimes those are the same thing." Maya shook her head. "Not anymore." The interview ended shortly before dawn. Outside the conference room, Mercer was given a copy of his report and told investigators would compare it line by line with the recovered video during his formal interview. He read the first page, then the second. His earlier confidence did not return. Dugan passed him in the hallway. Neither man spoke. Through the eastern windows, the first daylight began to reach the courthouse square. Maya walked to the rear side of the building, where the Bentley had been moved into a secured area. She stopped near the glass door and looked at it. The body remained intact, but the empty window frames were still exposed. Broken safety glass remained across parts of the interior because the vehicle had been preserved for documentation. Reeves stood a few steps behind her. "You all right?" "Yes. You've been awake all night. So has everyone else." "That wasn't what I asked." Maya kept her attention on the Bentley. "This started because one man couldn't accept being told no." Reeves waited. "And then another man decided the department mattered more than the truth." The morning light grew stronger across the parking area. Maya turned away from the damaged car. The broken windows had started the investigation. What happened inside the station had made it much larger. By 7:30 Monday morning, the parking lot outside the Carver County Sheriff's Office had begun to fill. Local reporters gathered near the main entrance. A television truck parked beside the courthouse square, and 2 photographers stood across the street waiting for someone to come outside. Word had spread that an overnight incident involved the newly appointed sheriff, though most people still did not know exactly what had happened. Inside, Maya stood in the conference room with Michael Reeves and Agent Blake. Blake closed a folder. "We're placing Mercer on administrative leave pending the investigation." Maya nodded. "And Dugan? He'll be removed from any role that gives him access to evidence, personnel files, or case management systems, while we continue. That needs to happen immediately." "It will." Reeves looked toward Maya. "The county was supposed to announce your appointment at 9. "I know. That plan is gone." Maya looked through the window toward the lobby. "What are reporters asking?" "Everything. Whether you were arrested, whether you were assaulted, whether this was some kind of internal test, whether Mercer knew who you were." Maya turned back. "I'm not giving them a story before the evidence is reviewed. They'll interpret silence. They can interpret whatever they want. We'll give them facts." Reeves nodded. "You want me beside you?" "Yes." Maya paused. "And Agent Blake stays in charge of discussing the investigation." Blake agreed. Shortly after 8, Mercer was called into a personnel office. He entered with a union representative who had arrived less than 20 minutes earlier. Dugan was brought into a separate administrative room. Neither man was permitted access to the evidence system. Mercer's representative read the temporary suspension notice. "Administrative leave with pay pending investigation," he said. "You understand this is not a final disciplinary action?" Mercer looked at Maya, who stood near the doorway with Reeves. "Do I have a choice?" "No," Maya said. Mercer gave a bitter laugh. "You waited until you had the badge." Maya's expression did not change. "No. I waited for independent investigators to preserve the evidence. You could fire me right now. I could make a decision before the process is complete. I'm not going to." Mercer looked surprised. "You think that makes you better than me?" "This isn't about me." He stared at her for several seconds. Maya continued. "You'll have representation. You'll have the opportunity to respond. The evidence will be reviewed outside this department." Mercer looked down at the notice. For the first time, he seemed to understand that Maya was not going to give him an argument he could later describe as personal retaliation. He signed the acknowledgement. In another office, Dugan received notice that he had been removed from operational command pending investigation. He read the document slowly. Who approved this? Reeves answered. The county has authority to restrict administrative access during an independent investigation. Dugan looked toward Maya. You haven't even been here one full day. That doesn't change what happened last night. You're going to tear this department apart. Maya answered calmly. No. The investigation will determine what needs to be repaired. Dugan shook his head. You still think policy fixes people? No. Policy makes it harder for people to hide what they do. Dugan said nothing after that. By 9, Maya walked to a small podium outside the sheriff's office. The North Carolina flag and the American flag moved lightly behind her. Reeves stood several feet away. Blake remained near the entrance. Reporters began calling questions before Maya reached the microphones. Sheriff Williams, were you arrested last night? Did a deputy destroy your car? Was this an undercover operation? Are you firing anyone? Maya raised one hand. The questions stopped gradually. My name is Maya Williams. As of midnight, I am the Sheriff of Carver County. Cameras clicked. Last night, before my commission took effect, I was involved in a traffic stop conducted by members of this office. Evidence connected to that incident is now under independent review. A reporter called out, Were you treated unlawfully? Maya looked toward Blake. That question will be answered by evidence, not by my title. Another reporter asked, Did the deputies know who you were? No. Would this have happened if they had? Maya paused. That is one of the questions this county needs to think seriously about. She continued, No employee will be protected because of rank. No employee will be punished without due process. Records connected to this matter have been preserved, and outside investigators are handling the criminal and evidentiary review. Are you saying there was a cover-up? I'm saying investigators have identified evidence handling issues that require examination. I will not go beyond that until the facts are established. The press conference lasted less than 10 minutes. Maya refused repeated attempts to turn the incident into a personal feud. She returned inside and began the job she had originally expected to begin under very different circumstances. The following months changed the department gradually. Mercer's case moved through administrative and legal review. The recovered Bentley footage contradicted key portions of his report, and investigators established that he had deleted local camera files after the stop. After the required proceedings, he lost his position and faced further legal consequences tied to the search, falsified reporting, and destruction of evidence. The investigation into Dugan took longer. Audit logs, surviving transition records, prior complaints, and evidence room history showed a broader pattern of supervisory intervention. Investigators reopened older cases rather than assuming every complaint was valid. Some resulted in no finding of misconduct. Others revealed report changes and evidence problems that should have been examined years earlier. Dugan was removed permanently from operational authority, while the investigation proceeded into evidence tampering, obstruction, and falsification. Noah cooperated fully. Months later, he stood in Maya's office after giving another formal statement. I should have stopped Mercer sooner, he said. Yes, Maya replied. Noah looked at her. She continued, Doing the right thing late still matters, but somebody else pays for every minute you wait. He nodded. I won't forget. Good. Don't. Maya did not promote him. She did not give him a public award. Noah returned to patrol with more responsibility for his own decisions than he had carried before. The department changed its evidence procedures. Electronic records received permanent audit histories. Critical video was backed up off-site. Supervisory edits to reports were logged. Restricted internal review materials required dual authorization. Evidence deletion triggered outside review. Employees who reported misconduct received formal whistleblower protection. Maya also reopened the public complaint process. Residents could submit concerns without having them screened, first by the supervisor involved in the incident. Some deputies disliked the changes. Others quietly admitted they should have existed years earlier. Maya listened to both groups. She attended county commission meetings, neighborhood gatherings, veterans hall discussions, and community safety forums. Older residents often approached her afterward with stories about relatives, traffic stops, good deputies they respected, and bad experiences they had never reported. Maya never promised perfection. She promised a record that could not be quietly rewritten. Late one afternoon, the repaired Bentley returned from the body shop. The new glass was flawless. Maya stood beside the vehicle for several minutes, then opened a small box the repair manager had given her. Inside was one preserved piece of the original shattered safety glass. She carried it into the sheriff's office. Noah saw her walking toward the training room. "What are you going to do with that?" Maya looked at the glass in her hand. The insurance company replaced the window. She opened the training room door. The department still needs to remember why it broke. 1 year later, Maya was returning from a community meeting on the west side of Carver County when traffic slowed ahead of her. Noah Bennett sat in the passenger seat of the county SUV, reviewing notes from the meeting. He had spent most of the afternoon listening to homeowners ask about patrol coverage, traffic enforcement, and response times. The discussion had been calm and practical, which Maya considered progress. Noah looked up. Traffic stop ahead? Maya saw the patrol vehicle on the shoulder. A silver luxury sedan was parked in front of it. A young deputy stood beside the driver's window while the driver remained inside. Maya reduced her speed, but did not stop. "Know who that is?" she asked. "Deputy Collins. About 6 months out of field training." Maya moved into the left lane and drove past slowly enough to observe without interfering. Collins stood several feet from the door rather than leaning into the vehicle. His body camera was visible on his uniform. The driver appeared irritated. Maya could not hear the first part of the conversation, but when traffic stopped briefly at a nearby signal, the county SUV remained close enough for portions of the exchange to carry through the open windows. "I understand you're frustrated, sir," Collins said. "The reason I stopped you was the speed recorded near the school zone." The driver handed him documents. "This is ridiculous. I wasn't going that fast. I'll check the information and come back. Please stay in the vehicle." Collins returned to his patrol car. Noah watched him enter the registration. "He could probably see us. Maybe. You think that changes how he handles it?" Maya looked toward the patrol vehicle. "It shouldn't." The traffic light remained red. A few minutes later, Collins returned to the sedan. He handed the driver his license and registration. "I'm issuing a warning today. The school zone limit changes earlier than the regular limit, so watch the signs when you come through here again." The driver took the papers. "That's it?" "That's it. Drive safely." No request to search the vehicle followed. No argument over attitude. No attempt to extend the stop because the driver had complained. Collins stepped away, and the silver sedan pulled back into traffic. The light ahead turned green. Noah looked after the car. "That's it?" Maya glanced at him. "That's the point." They continued toward the sheriff's office. The department had changed during the year, though not every change had been popular. Body camera interruptions now generated automatic review notices. Evidence deletions required documented authorization and outside notification. Supervisory changes to incident reports remained visible in the electronic history. Restricted internal review material required 2 authorized employees to record access. Some deputies had complained that the new procedures assumed everyone was dishonest. Maya had answered the same way each time. Good systems did not exist because everyone was dishonest. They existed because honesty should not depend on memory, rank, or personal loyalty. The complaint process had changed too. Residents could submit complaints directly to an independent review channel, instead of relying solely on the employee's immediate supervisor. Complaints had increased during the first several months. Critics used the increase as proof that the department was getting worse. The reviews showed something different. More people were simply willing to report problems because they believed somebody would read what they wrote. Some complaints were unsupported. Others resulted in additional training. A small number led to discipline. Maya insisted that every outcome be documented. Noah had remained on patrol. He had asked once whether his cooperation in the investigation would affect promotion opportunities. Maya told him it would neither help nor hurt him. Doing what should have been done did not create a debt the department owed him. He had accepted that answer. As they entered headquarters, a group of newly hired deputies crossed the lobby toward the training room. One of them held the door for Maya. "Afternoon, Sheriff." "Afternoon." The group continued inside. Noah slowed near the doorway. The piece of shattered Bentley glass was still mounted on the wall behind clear protective material. Maya had refused suggestions to build a larger display. No photographs. No detailed account of the case. No names. Only the damaged glass and a small metal plaque beneath it. Power is tested most when no one important seems to be watching. A training officer stood beside the display, addressing the new deputies. "This isn't here to tell you not to make mistakes," he said. "You will make mistakes. It's here to remind you that what matters next is whether you document them, correct them, or try to hide them." Maya continued walking. Noah followed her toward the administrative wing. "You ever think about taking it down? The glass? Yeah. No. You don't think people get tired of seeing it? They should." Noah looked at her. Maya explained. "Not tired enough to forget it. Tired enough that the lesson becomes routine." They reached her office. Through the windows, the courthouse square was active with an ordinary weekday afternoon. A delivery driver carried boxes into the county building. 2 retirees talked near the Veterans Memorial. A maintenance worker adjusted one of the flag lines. Nothing outside suggested that the sheriff's office had once spent an entire night trying to decide what version of the truth would survive until morning. Noah stopped at the doorway. "I'll finish the community meeting notes. Send them before the end of shift." "Yes, ma'am." He started to leave, then turned back. "That driver today probably has no idea we were watching." "He shouldn't." Noah nodded and left. Maya sat at her desk. The repaired Bentley was parked outside. Its replacement windows looked no different from the originals. Mercer no longer worked in law enforcement. His case had ended through the legal process, rather than through one angry decision made by Maya. Dugan's investigation had taken longer. Several older complaints had been reopened. Some had cleared employees who had been accused unfairly. Others confirmed problems that should have been addressed years earlier. That distinction had always mattered to Maya. Accountability was not about assuming guilt. It was about refusing to hide the evidence needed to determine the truth. Her phone rang. Maya reached for it, then briefly looked through the open office door toward the training room. The glass remained on the wall. A new group of deputies was standing in front of it. Maya picked up the phone. "Sheriff Williams." Another ordinary working day continued. The most important change in Carver County was not that 2 men had finally faced consequences. It was that an ordinary driver could now be stopped, questioned, treated lawfully, and sent home without ever needing to be anyone important. Real justice is rarely the moment everyone sees. Sometimes, it is simply the wrong thing not happening again. The lesson from Maya's story is simple. Power means very little if it is not controlled by integrity. Rights should not depend on a person's title, wealth, connections, or position. The moment authority begins protecting itself instead of protecting the truth, silence becomes part of the problem. Real justice is not only about punishing the people who cross the line, it is about changing the system so the next ordinary person does not have to suffer the same wrong. Thank you sincerely for staying with us until the very end of this story. Your time and attention mean more to us than you may realize. We would also love to hear your thoughts about the way this story was told. Was the pacing clear? Did the suspense hold your attention? Were there moments you felt could have been stronger or more emotional? Your feedback helps us improve every story we share. And if you have a true story, a personal experience, or a powerful story from your community that you believe deserves to be heard, please send it to the channel. Your story may become the next one we tell, and it may help someone else feel seen, understood, or encouraged to speak up. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.